Yumenglong's manager interrogation leaks. The truth they tried to bury, Part 2. When the first interrogation leak went viral, the world thought they had seen the full picture. The sweat on the manager's brow, the trembling in his voice, the moment he said, "I didn't mean for him to die." But the newly uncovered portion, the one the authorities never meant to see daylight, was worse. Much worse. It began with the sound of a clock ticking. Loud. Too loud. Then, a muffled voice in the background said, "We're not recording yet." But the camera was recording. And that's how the second video, the true interrogation, began. The manager's eyes. The man who once managed Menglong, known publicly as Lu Wenhao, sat handcuffed to the table. His eyes were red, not from tears, but exhaustion, the kind that comes from running from the truth for too long. A detective across from him flipped through a file and said coldly, "You worked with him for 5 years. You arranged his appearances, controlled his schedule, handled his payments. So tell us who told you to do it." Lu swallowed hard. His lips quivered, but no sound came out. The detective slammed the table. "Answer me." That's when Lu's trembling began. His breathing changed. He leaned forward and whispered, so faintly that the camera barely caught it, "You think this was my idea? You have no idea how deep this goes." The detective leaned closer. "Then make us understand." Lu shook his head. "If I talk, others die." The room went silent. The second tape. 2 hours later, a new tape was played for Lu, a hidden recording found on his own phone. It captured a meeting between him and an unknown woman days before Yumenglong's death. Her voice was soft but commanding. She said, "You know what must be done." "He's seen the files." Lu's voice replied, nervous and shaking. "He won't talk. He promised me." The woman laughed coldly. "They all promise." As the tape ended, Lu buried his face in his hands and began to sob. "I didn't want this," he cried. "He called me that night. He said something was wrong. He said he'd found their names." The detective froze. "Whose names?" Lu looked up, eyes hollow, voice trembling. "The ones who built him, then decided to erase him." The flash drive revelation. That's when the interrogator revealed the item found inside Lu's apartment, a black flash drive hidden behind a framed photo of Menglong smiling with his castmates. The file was labeled Horizon_09. When opened, it contained contracts, coded messages, and financial transfers from major entertainment figures, amounts so large they made headlines explode within hours of the leak. But there was one short clip buried inside the folder, grainy footage from a hospital hallway. Yumenglong's stretcher rolling by, followed by 2 men in black suits. The camera zoomed slightly, and for one brief frame, the woman in beige appeared again, the same one from the CCTV, the same one from the hospital, the same one connected to the serpent-sealed envelope. Lu closed his eyes and said quietly, "That's her. She's the reason he's gone." The hidden command. What shocked everyone next was a recovered text message between Lu and a contact saved as W Director. W. He's talking too much. Make sure he disappears quietly. Lu. He trusts me. He'll come if I call. W. Then call him tonight. That was the night Menglong left his apartment for the last time. The words hit the courtroom like thunder. One juror fainted. And Lu? He couldn't stop muttering the same phrase under his breath. "I called him. He said he'd bring the USB. I didn't know he'd swallow it to keep it safe." A visit in the interrogation room. At 2:37 a.m., the lights in the interrogation room flickered. The CCTV timecode glitched for 7 seconds, then resumed. In those missing 7 seconds, Lu's body jolted violently. When the feed returned, he was breathing heavily, staring into the corner as though someone else was there. He whispered, "Stop, please stop. I told them already." But the room was empty. The detective, reviewing the tape later, said it was impossible. There was no one else recorded. Still, when they enhanced the audio, a faint voice overlapped his whisper. A soft, chilling tone saying, "You promised you'd protect me." The whisper spreads. That leaked audio became one of the most viral moments in Chinese internet history. Fans compared the whisper to old recordings of Yumenglong's voice, and the match was uncanny. Some said it was coincidence. Others said it was him. The hashtag he promised trended worldwide. Outside the detention center, hundreds of fans gathered, holding candles, chanting, "If he spoke, then truth lives." Liu was moved to a private facility days later for security reasons. But whispers leaked again, this time from the guards. They claimed that every night, around 3 a.m., the lights outside Liu's cell would flicker. And he'd start screaming, "He's here again. He's here." The letter in blood. 2 weeks after that, a guard cleaning Liu's cell found a single note on the wall, written in what appeared to be blood. They took everything. But he took the truth with him. The handwriting matched Liu's, except for the last line, which had a different slant. It was signed simply, M. Forensic experts confirmed that it was not written by Liu. Who was M? Some fans believed it was Yumenglong's final message, the same signature he'd used on letters to fans years ago. Others thought it was the woman in beige, mocking everyone who dared get close. Either way, the prison painted over it immediately. But the photo had already gone viral. The interrogation room burns. Exactly 3 nights later, a fire broke out inside the same facility. Only one room was destroyed, room 12B, the interrogation chamber where Liu had confessed. The cause was listed as electrical malfunction. But the CCTV footage revealed something eerie. A faint shadow moved inside the room seconds before the flames erupted, the outline of a man in a hospital gown, standing motionless by the chair. The footage cut to static. The reopened case. When the Supreme Court received the full interrogation logs, they announced an emergency review of the case. For the first time, words like conspiracy, cover-up, and industry interference were officially used in court documents. The revelation shocked the nation. Yumenglong's mother, still mourning, appeared outside the courthouse, clutching her son's photograph. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "You can burn the tapes. You can silence the guilty. But my son's voice will still echo through this world." Fans wept. Reporters fell silent. Even the guards turned away to hide their tears. The woman finally speaks. Then came the unthinkable. The woman in beige finally appeared. She surrendered, not to police, but to a journalist. In a secret interview that later leaked, she said, "They told me to make him disappear. But I didn't kill him. He knew too much. And he had proof of everything. That's why he hid the USB, because he knew even I couldn't be trusted." The interviewer asked, "Who are they?" She smiled faintly. "The ones who own everything you watch, everything you believe." When pressed for details, she leaned forward and whispered something the microphone barely caught. "He's still watching." The feed cut off abruptly. Her location remains unknown. The manager's final words. Before Liu Wenhao was transferred to another facility, he was granted one last phone call. The recipient? A disconnected number. Yumenglong's old personal line. Still, he dialed it. When the recording was retrieved later, there was silence for 10 seconds, and then Liu spoke softly, brokenly. "I told them everything, Menglong. I did what you asked. Please forgive me." And then a faint voice, static-filled, almost human, replied, "You did what you had to." The call cut off. Liu was found unresponsive in his cell that night. The truth lives on. Today, the interrogation videos remain under government archive, sealed indefinitely. But the fragments, the whispers, the leaked seconds have already rewritten history. Every new detail that surfaces only deepens the mystery. Fans believe Menglong foresaw his fate and built a trail so detailed that even his death couldn't silence him. The world still debates whether the voice in that final recording was real, a glitch, or something else entirely. But one thing is certain. The truth he carried didn't die with him. Because every time someone presses play on those leaked interrogation clips, that same whisper echoes through the static. "Tell them I tried." The fear that couldn't be hidden. The air inside the interrogation room was heavy, almost suffocating. The small clock on the wall ticked louder than usual, echoing against the cold steel table where Yumenglong's manager, Lu Wenhao, sat trembling, his wrists red from the cuffs that had dug too deep. He had already confessed something in the first video leak. But now, the full-length version, the one the public was never supposed to see, painted a darker, more disturbing picture. It wasn't just guilt in his eyes anymore. It was terror. A young investigator entered with a small speaker and placed it in front of him. "Listen carefully," she said coldly. "This was taken from her phone last night." The room fell silent. The device played a short audio clip, Yumenglong's voice, faint but clear. "If anything happens to me, tell them to check the last call I made." Lu froze. His pupils dilated. His breathing became ragged. He whispered, "Don't play that here. Please don't." The investigator leaned in. "Why not? You were the last person he called, weren't you?" Lu's fingers clenched into fists. His knuckles turned white. "He trusted me," he said, voice breaking. "He thought I could protect him." "From who?" Lu's eyes darted toward the one-way mirror, as if someone behind it could hear his thoughts. He shook his head. "They're listening." The investigator crossed her arms. "Who's listening?" No reply. So she pressed another button. A second audio file began. This one was distorted, filled with static and faint whispers. But between the crackles, a woman's voice emerged. "Make it look like an accident. He'll never know what hit him." Lu gasped and grabbed the table, his body shaking uncontrollably. "Turn it off," he shouted. But she didn't. "You agreed to it," the voice continued. "You said you'd handle it." The investigator paused the recording. "Recognize that voice?" Lu nodded slowly, tears filling his eyes. "Yes, but she wasn't supposed to." He stopped. "Wasn't supposed to what?" "She wasn't supposed to survive that night." The room went silent again. Even the officers outside watching the feed froze in disbelief. "Who is she?" the investigator asked. Lu stared down at the metal table. His reflection looked ghostly under the white lights. "The woman in beige," he said finally. "You've seen her in the footage. She worked for them, but she fell in love with him. That's why everything went wrong." He took a deep breath. "That night, Menglong called me. He said he had proof, messages, files, names. He wanted to hand them over." "What kind of proof?" Lu laughed bitterly. "Proof that fame isn't earned, it's bought. That the same people who lift you up can bury you alive when you stop obeying." The investigator leaned forward. "You're saying his death wasn't an accident?" Lu's lips trembled. It was a warning. The lights flickered for a moment. Lu froze again, his eyes locked on the corner of the ceiling where the camera blinked red. He whispered something under his breath. The investigator frowned. "What did you say?" Lu looked up, pale as paper. "He's here." "Who?" "Menglong." The words sent a chill through the room. A faint sound echoed from the speaker, static, then what sounded like a voice humming. A soft, familiar tune. The investigator froze. She recognized it instantly. It was Yumenglong's unfinished song, the one he'd been recording before he died. But how was it playing through a device that wasn't connected to any network? The young woman reached for the power cable to pull it out, but Lu slammed his hands on the table and screamed, "Don't! If you stop it, he'll get angry." The camera recording the scene began to glitch. The image distorted for a few seconds, and in that static blur, a shape seemed to flicker behind Lu, a silhouette, faint and human-like. When the feed stabilized, Lu was crying uncontrollably. "He just wanted to tell the truth," he sobbed. "They didn't let him." The investigator turned off the device at last. The hum stopped. But Lu didn't. He began muttering to himself, over and over. "I told him to wait. I told him not to go there that night." "Go where?" she demanded. Lu's head lifted slowly, his expression hollow. "The rooftop. They told him to meet there for a deal. But it wasn't a meeting. It was an execution." The investigator's heart dropped. "You mean he was already dead before he fell?" Those words hit like lightning. The entire team in the control room went silent. One of them whispered, "Is he saying they staged the fall?" "Yes. That's exactly what he was saying." Lu continued, voice shaking but clearer now. like he'd finally stopped resisting the truth. They drugged him. He was unconscious when I got there. They told me to check his pulse, to confirm. Then they made me say it was a suicide. And I did. Because I was afraid. Tears rolled down his cheeks. I still see his face every night. The investigator clenched her jaw, trying to stay composed. Why come clean now? She asked. He looked straight into the camera, as if speaking not to the officer, but to the world. Because he won't let me sleep. Every night, I hear his voice whispering, "Tell them the truth." When the video ended, even the officers couldn't move. The silence was heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. Outside, news outlets reported fragments of the leaked footage within minutes. Headlines exploded across the internet. Menglong was dead before he fell. The manager's tears reveal a nightmare cover-up. Voice of the Dead, the recording that broke a nation. People replayed the interrogation millions of times, listening to that faint hum, arguing whether it was a glitch, a ghost, or a sign that Yumenglong's truth was still alive somewhere between this world and the next. That night, Lu Wenhao reportedly collapsed in his cell. Before losing consciousness, he whispered one final sentence to the guard beside him. He's finally free. And then, as if timed by fate, the same unfinished song began trending again online, the one that played in the interrogation room. Its title? Tell Them I Tried.